It all began with the wrong name on a phone screen. Maya Carter sat nervously at a corner table of the Willow Bistro, a warm, candlelit restaurant tucked in downtown Seattle. Her palms were sweaty, her heart racing. Not because she was scared, but because it had been years since she allowed herself to believe in love again. Tonight was supposed to be her fresh start. A blind date set up by her best friend Anna. The man's name was supposed to be Ryan Mitchell, an architect, kind, soft-spoken, and apparently just as bad at dating as she was. But when the tall, slightly awkward man walked in, brown hair tousled, shirt tucked half-heartedly, looking around with the confusion of someone who wasn't sure he belonged there, Maya smiled nervously and waved. He smiled back, hesitant but warm, and walked over. Except, he wasn't Ryan Mitchell. He was Ethan Miller, a photographer who had walked into the wrong restaurant for his own blind date, meant to be just 2 blocks away. But neither of them realized that. Not at first. Back into next pointing right before we go further. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strange beauty of fate, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. For the first 20 minutes, everything seemed surprisingly smooth. They laughed about the awkwardness of blind dating, about how both of them were terrible at small talk, and about how the waiter seemed more confident in their chemistry than either of them was. Maya found herself laughing more than she had in months. Ethan, who had been quietly skeptical about finding love again after his breakup 2 years ago, felt something unfamiliar, ease. When she mentioned she was a kindergarten teacher who loved taking long walks through Green Lake Park, his eyes lit up. "You mean the one with the willow trees by the water?" he said, a spark of recognition flickering across his face. "That's my favorite place to shoot sunsets." She smiled. Maybe we've been there at the same time, never realizing it. They talked for hours about dreams, heartbreaks, art, family, and all the little things people usually say for someone they trust. There was a quiet magic between them, the kind that didn't need fireworks to feel special. When the evening ended, Ethan offered to walk her to her car. The air outside was cold, the streets slick with light rain. She thanked him, thinking she just met someone who might, maybe, one day become a friend. It wasn't until she got home and checked her phone that the truth hit. There was a message from Ryan Mitchell. "Hey, I'm here at the Maple Leaf Cafe. Are you running late?" Maya froze. Her stomach dropped. The color drained from her face as realization washed over her. She had gone on a blind date with the wrong man. And yet, it had felt right. The next morning, Ethan sat staring at his camera bag, trying to process the same thing. He'd gotten a text from his actual date. "I waited for 45 minutes at Bistro Noir. Guess you didn't want to meet." He felt like the universe had played a trick on him, but for the first time in years, he didn't feel bitter. He felt alive. Something about Maya's quiet warmth, her laughter, her genuine eyes, it lingered. That afternoon, he found the courage to text her. "Maya, I think last night we both ended up in the wrong place, but maybe the right moment." She smiled when she saw the message. Her heart, which had been cautiously guarded, softened. Maybe fate really did make mistakes on purpose. Over the next few weeks, they started seeing each other again, accidentally on purpose, as Maya liked to say. They went for coffee, walked through the park where the willow trees brushed against the lake, and shared pieces of their past they'd never said out loud before. Maya told him how she'd lost her fiancé, Adam, 3 years earlier in a car accident. How she'd spent months building walls around herself, believing she didn't deserve to be happy again. Ethan didn't interrupt. He just listened. He told her how he'd been cheated on by someone he thought he'd marry, how it broke his confidence not just in love but in himself. He had stopped photographing people after that, focusing only on landscapes, things that didn't change or hurt. But after meeting Maya, he started taking portraits again. Of her, of people, of life. Maya, too, began to find herself again. She started painting on weekends, smiling more at work, even humming to herself while making breakfast. Her friends noticed the glow returning to her face. Yet, even as they grew closer, fear shadowed them. Maya was terrified of losing someone again. Ethan, though patient, began to feel her pulling away, especially whenever he mentioned the future. One evening, while walking home after dinner, he gently said, "You keep looking behind you, Maya. You can't heal if you keep waiting for the past to catch up. Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't answer, only whispered, "I'm scared, Ethan. What if love leaves me again?" He wanted to tell her that sometimes love doesn't leave, it just waits for the right time to return. But instead, he simply held her hand tighter, silently promising he wouldn't let go first. Months passed. Their connection deepened. Yet, Maya's fear never fully disappeared. One spring morning, Ethan invited her to one of his photography exhibitions. The gallery was filled with vibrant portraits, smiling faces, laughing children, old couples holding hands. But at the center of the room hung one photograph, a candid shot of Maya by the lake, her hair caught in the wind, her eyes closed, her smile peaceful. The caption read, "Found by mistake, kept by choice." Maya's breath caught. She turned to him, trembling. "You put this here?" He nodded. "Because meeting you was the best mistake of my life." Tears welled in her eyes as she looked around the room filled with strangers who were quietly moved by her story, unaware they were witnessing something real unfold between two broken souls learning to heal. That night, after everyone left, she finally whispered, "Maybe I'm ready to stop running from what's meant for me." And for the first time, she kissed him, not out of impulse, but out of surrender. But life, as it often does, had one more test waiting. 2 months later, Maya's mother fell gravely ill in Portland. Maya had to move back temporarily to care for her. The distance was only a few hours, but it felt like oceans. Ethan called every night, texted good morning messages, sent photos from their favorite spots. But as the weeks stretched on, the calls grew shorter. The silences longer. One night, overwhelmed and exhausted, Maya said quietly, "Maybe we should take a break. You deserve someone who isn't always miles away." Ethan's voice cracked, but he respected her wish. "If that's what you need, I'll wait. Not forever, but for the right reason." After that call, Maya cried harder than she had in years. Because she knew, this time, it wasn't fear keeping her away. It was love. 6 months later, her mother's health improved. Maya returned to Seattle, a little stronger, a little braver, but uncertain if Ethan would still be there. She walked past all their old places, the park, the cafe, the bookstore where they'd shared coffee on rainy days. Everything reminded her of what she'd lost. On a cold November evening, she wandered into the Willow Bistro again, the same place where it all began, that fateful mistaken date. The restaurant was warm and familiar, filled with laughter and the soft hum of music. She took a quiet corner table, almost as if retracing her steps from the past. And then she saw him, standing at the entrance, holding a small velvet box, wearing the same awkward smile from their first meeting, but now filled with certainty. He walked toward her slowly, eyes never leaving hers. "You know," he said softly, "I almost didn't come tonight. But something told me that if fate could make one mistake and bring you into my life, maybe it could make one more and bring you back." Maya's tears spilled freely. "Ethan, I'm so sorry for running." He shook his head, smiling through his own tears. "You didn't run. You just took the long way home." He knelt, right there in the middle of the restaurant that once hosted their mistake, and opened the box. "Maya Carter, will you marry me? Not because we were perfect from the start, but because we learned how to love even when we weren't." The room fell silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward them. And in that moment, the weight of everything, loss, fear, fate, love, collapsed into one beautiful truth. Maya nodded, unable to speak. The tears, the laughter, the trembling hands. It all became a symphony of second chances. Ethan stood, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Guess this is the best mistake I'll ever make." The next summer, they married by the lake under the same willow trees they'd once admired together. The sky was painted in soft orange and pink, and Maya's laughter echoed across the water as Ethan took photographs. This time not of strangers, but of his forever. Sometimes, love doesn't need perfection or planning. Sometimes it just needs two people willing to stay, even when fate forgets its lines. Red Heart, if this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. Every view, every word of kindness helps us bring more true-hearted stories to life. Speech balloon before you go. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe mistakes can lead us to our destiny?